welcome back to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. I'm Dr. Cheryl Shire, PhD in Financial Management and Business Administration, and I'm a minister. Well, thank you for joining us for the first part of a two-part discussion with my guest, Mark Sackett. We have Mark E.Sackett. Mark is the president and creative director of the Idea Stone, Reflector, Brain Food USA, the SF Box, which is the art of active networking. Mark has over 25 years of experience in the marketing, branding, and the graphic design industry. Mark's work has included in the permanent collection of the Library of Congress and has been showcased both nationally and internationally. He has won hundreds of design and creative awards. As a thinker, Mark is constantly looking for new and effective ways in which to interweave multiple channels of an organization. With an eye to effective brand integration, Mark works with each client toward customer for life and loyalty programs, which will enhance the bottom line. His love of consumer markets and his constant trends research has helped him create an integrated approach to his firm and offers that thinking to clients. His work and service in the nonprofit sector, including nonprofit board service, has further allowed him to broaden his philanthropic thinking and create cause-related solutions. For his most visionary clients, Mark thrives on meeting and doing business with those who do things right by caring about people, animals, and our planet. He understands well that money is not always the primary driver to success and that relationship and reputation are. Well, that's a lot, actually.
Yes, it is.
And it's very commendable, actually. But I'd like to open up a question and answer, which I think we kind of discussed a little bit before. But how were you initially taught in your primary years? What, as far as money and wealth goes, from your parents, your caregivers? And
It's funny, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I don't know that I was taught per se, but I was about 7 years old, and I had something happen to me. I was walking to school, and it was a very stormy day, and I came to this realization on that morning as I was walking to school that there was something different in me than there was in everybody around me, and it was that, like, I was the one that was thrilled on a stormy morning to go to school, and everybody else was talking about how crummy the day was. Anyway, this shift for me, or this realization, I guess you should say, for me, really caused me to realize that I could that because of this, what I perceived to be this difference, and this kind of excitement that I had about life, and this curiosity I had about life, that I also wanted to do things that I guess maybe were beyond my age or whatever. So I started, the first thing I can recall is that I did a Kool-Aid stand. and it wasn't a normal Kool-Aid stand. It was that, like, I sold gumballs, and I had my mom make cookies, and I had balloons, I believe, and
wow.
And I would sell everything for, like, 3, 4, or 5 cents, whatever it was. But like,
so
when
you had multiple streams of thinking going.
I did, and it continues to this day, but it wouldn't shut me up, and it wouldn't stop me. And so everybody else would make $10 on their Kool-Aid stand, and I'd make 52.
So what do you think really was the basis of
Well,
that?
part of it might have just been fear that I perceived that if I didn't have money or if I didn't have resources, that I wouldn't be able to accomplish things I wanted to accomplish. And that's way articulate for a 7-year-old.
Well,
in my head, it probably wasn't happening that way, but that's what I thought. Well, what this did is it led me to my parents always seeing me want to make money from something, cutting grass, shoveling snow. Everybody else would be out sledding, and I would be shoveling driveways. Or everybody else would be playing soccer or football or baseball, and I would be cutting grass, And so
you've always had that production
exactly
oriented.
And they opened a credit union account for me. And I remember to this day.
And how old were you?
I was 7, 8, 9 years old, out something like that. I mean, I kept putting it in my little treasure chest. You know, I kept my money in my box.
Right.
And then they finally saw that like there's too much money just to be sitting around. We should teach him how to. And it wasn't actively, we're going to teach you how to save money. But what they did do is they opened this credit union account for me. And I remember to this day, it was a little blue book about the size of a passport. Mm-hmm. And there was a little girl on the front of that, and she was holding an umbrella, and it was raining on her, like a little Morton Salt type girl or something.
Yeah.
And I remember that the slogan said, "Teach your dollars to have more sense," and it was spelled, instead of S-E-N-S-E, it was C-E-N-T-S.
Yeah, right.
And every time I put money in that credit union account,
and
I got to do my math, and I would watch it grow. And I think it was like 14, I had $2,600.
Wow.
You know,
yeah.
And for me, that was kind of whatever it is for people. I think everybody has their thing, you know. But for me, money was a motivator. I mean, and it was also this idea that if I had money, I could have freedoms that I wanted to have.
But your parents allowed you to do that. I mean,
my parents have allowed me to do they never ever anything I wanted to do, any numbskull idea, they supported me.
So you've always had that innovative way of doing it.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I found out a way to make Christmas wreaths out of old computer cards, and it was a Reader's Digest page, and we figured out. My dad made one and put it on the front door, and I made it with him, and. But I asked my mom if she could bring these computer cards home from the banks. They came in these big boxes. It's very older people will know this, like me. And so I, instead of just making the wreath for the front door, I covered our two-car garage on the floor and had my parents keep their cars outside and got yellow, gold, red.
Are you an only child?
No, I'm the oldest of 4.
Okay, so
But we went to Lee Ward's and got fake holly, and I took these wreaths that I made, and sold them door to door.
Has this influenced your siblings at all?
I'm definitely the most entrepreneurial of my family, but by far, and they're all very successful at what they do. But I think the thing in our family is everybody does something that they really love, and we're all passionate about what we do. But my parents never question. My parents still don't know what the hell I do for a living. Like I try to explain it. I'm on a movie premiere, or I'm directing or producing something, or I'm on a shoot, or I'm on a red carpet with a celebrity and Grammy Awards, and I try to explain it, and I think I just realized this recently. In fact, I was doing an interview, and I realized that it doesn't really matter. I always was bothered me that I always perceived they didn't care what I do, but I don't think they just understand it.
Yeah,
and they care, but what they don't care about ultimately that I make money or any of that. They care that I'm warm and safe and happy.
Absolutely.
That's what parents care about. Right. And I realized recently, my my dad just turned 80, and they just were married 58 years on October 2nd. And I realized that that's what parents care about. That's what they need to care about, and they always do. They always tell me to be careful every call when I hang up. I'm like, what do they think I do for a living? That they just have to be careful.
They just don't understand it. And I guess maybe it's beyond their comprehension on some degree. Maybe?
I just don't think it matters. It doesn't matter. As long as you're happy,
okay.
and as long as you're okay. Yeah, that's what matters.
Oh, wow.
But I think they indirectly, through their support and mentorship and all those things, and my other family members, and creativity and all this stuff that I'm just so blessed to have in my life, that indirectly I learned the value of money. And because I've had lows and highs, and I make okay money, and I do fine for myself, but it's never a driver for me. It's definitely a motivator for me, but it's not a driver for me.
So what's you had said you understand well that money is not always the primary driver to success, and that relationships okay. So what is your primary driver?
My primary driver is living a passionate, creative life. My primary driver is my ideas and the way that this brain of mine works. I don't know what it is, but I have a very unique ability to, if you were to give me something that you're working on right now, by the end of this interview, I'd have it all worked out in my head of how one option, probably 4, of how you could do it. And I just had some people do astrology, and so I was given an astrology reading for my birthday last year. And she looked at it and she said, "Oh, well, you have this reverse bucket chart or something." And she says, "You have like 8 moons concentrated in one house." She goes, "You're like a Virgo on steroids." She goes,
Oh, okay.
"She goes, you probably."
And that's service.
Well,
and,
it's service and
quick-witted,
ideation,
quick-witted.
very fast
Yeah,
on my feet,
yeah,
you know, and
yeah.
and it's a gift, and I embrace it because I don't know why, but like I'll go to a meeting with a client and I have 10 ideas by the time I'm to the car, you know, and I'm very fortunate because I have staff members and I have friends and other people in the communities that I live and work in that have trouble with ideation, you know, and so I've created a lot of seminars and tools to help people with that.
You mean as far as sparking the mind?
How do you get? Well, you know, you've heard me talk before about your passionate purpose and finding your passionate purpose and establishing your own personal brand and the things that I believe are really important to core success and to love in your life when you wake up in the morning. You know, and I think that if those things are in place, my belief has always been that the money will come. Because you're living your passionate purpose. You're going to make money from your passions, and if you're doing that, it's just snowballs, you know.
Yes. Well, you answered the next question actually,
Okay.
because I, you know, my passion and purpose is wealth transformation and getting that metaphysical approach to money,
Sure.
to wealth, and your source, I mean, you obviously have a source that's beyond the physical form. That's how I'm seeing this, because you have so much going on. It's incredible. I look at your website and you've got all this going on. I just hope you keep it all in balance.
Well, you know, that's actually interesting that you say that, especially when you say something like metaphysical, because I started doing a little bit of Kabbalah reading and training back in February. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God in the way that everybody believes in God. Or I guess maybe I don't believe in religion.
Oh,
okay.
Well,
because organized religion to me is a pathetic example of humanity. We hate in the name of our God, we exclude in the name of our version of God or whatever. And so for me, that I realized though that because of that disdain for religion, that I have been so overly off balanced, if you will, in my life and in creativity and in the other areas of my life, physical and emotional and some of the other things, but I never took care of spiritual, right? And so just of late, I've started to do more reading, like, you know, Abraham Hicks and Kabbalah and these different sort of things that they're helping to ground me a little bit. But even Kabbalah is getting a little too religious for me.
Yeah. Do you ever read Deepak Chopra?
I met Deepak recently, and I don't read these things. I don't read self-help books. I don't like that. It's funny. I just have this innate belief about things, but what I am doing is learning to be more selfish, and by that I mean, and I was saying this to someone the other day. I believe that selfish does not have to be a bad word, and it means taking care of self.
We have to for self-preservation.
Right, but it's also, you know, it's the whole, you know, in some of my talks, I gave a talk once called Secure Your Air Mask Before Helping Others. You know, and it's a very basic principle on planes, because if you can't breathe, you're not going to help the child or the person next to you.
Absolutely. I mean,
and one of the things I realized was that perhaps there's been times in my life when I've been really selfish in a bad way. You know, whether you want to call it, you know, arrogance, narcissism, you know, any of the myriad of things that people get at some point in their life. But for me, I'm learning to be a lot more selfish, which I'm trying to take care of myself better.
In a healthy way.
Of course, yes, absolutely.
So tell me what spiritual means to you.
I don't believe in spiritual. It doesn't work for me. I have trouble with spiritual. I have trouble. Where I am is more karma and the power of the universe. Okay. And that the interconnectedness of that.
Right. One thing that Deepak, and I think this is a really good interpretation or description of spiritual, is self-awareness. I'd like to, let's see. Well, what's the conversation? I know you've kind of talked about this, but what's the conversation that you have with yourself and others about how you approach success? How do you, with your philanthropic attitude and your drive for, you're always doing and creating things. What's the conversation that you have?
well, the voices in my head you probably
Well,
don't want to hear, but I, you know, it's this, you know, I actually wonder sometimes if my success and my attempts at new ideas and some of these things come from almost a point of fear sometimes.
What do you explain? You know,
Well,
yeah,
because,
I'd like to hear more about that.
I've been thinking a lot about this recently because I'm writing a book right now, and as I write more and more on it, you know, I am forced to articulate some of these voices in my head.
Oh yeah, totally.
And,
I can totally relate.
And in doing this, I've really realized, like, do I have a fear that I'm not going to get everything done that I want to get done before I die, for instance? Or like, I'm not going to see the world. I'm not going to accomplish that thing. I'm working on a nonprofit that I'm going to launch, and it's like I'm not putting the effort towards it yet because I don't. And you know, I was dating someone and then engaged to her, and then we broke up and got back together. And anyway, but she had a great impact on me in a number of ways. And some of the stuff when we were just breaking up, at one point she had said to me, right before we broke up, she said, "You're stubborn." And I said, "I'm not." And I said, "No, I'm not." And she says, "Yes, yeah, you're stubborn." And I said, "Well," I said, "I'll tell you what." I said, "You've known me for 4 years." And I said, "I do exactly what I need to do, exactly when I need to do it, in exactly the way that it needs to be done, and not before." And she said, "You know what? You're right. You do. Actually, that's very true. You do." She goes, "So maybe what I perceive to be stubborn isn't really stubbornness, it's just that you already know that it's not the right time." And so I am, you know, I think that, you know, I don't know if you have a sense of what your biggest fault is. And I can tell you my biggest fault is procrastination.
Oh,
okay?
wow. Now, see that...
Which is what's very ironic, huh?
I mean, totally ironic, because
surprise.
if there's one thing I don't like to procrastinate. I don't like putting things off because I don't want to have to go back because I got something new to go to.
Well, and I'm not sure I do like to put off, but whatever it is, I do.
That's a dichotomy.
And I know, and I put off the things that I hate doing the most. So, for instance, right now I have about $35,000 worth of billing that has to go out, and it's been sitting on my desk for a month.
Oh, wow.
Because I hate to do my billing.
But can't you have somebody help you with that?
Yes. But that's not, you know, you can't reason procrastination. That should be a shirt. You can't reason procrastination because it doesn't make sense. Wait, that's gonna feed me. That's gonna put money in the bank. It's all those kinds of things. And I'm like, $30,000 is significant.
Yeah, it is.
You know, that's 3 buildings.
In a month.
You know.
In a month, yes.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting here, but I'm just like, I'll get to it. And I'm finally and then what happens is I get to that sort of wall where it's like, I got to get it done because, like, I'm going to Los Angeles on Tuesday morning and I'm having a meeting with the client on Tuesday afternoon, and they're expecting the billing. So Monday I'll pump out the billing, it'll be done.
So you're forced.
But it goes back to what I said earlier. I do exactly what I need to do and exactly the way it needs to be done, exactly when it needs to be done, and not before.
So
even though sometimes it would be a hell of a lot easier for me to do it earlier.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to understand where your source comes from.
Well, I think it's a driver to. I have a very, very deep desire, as you know, to have a huge impact on the world.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't come to me from a point of arrogance or a point of need and want.
You just want to make a difference?
Well, you hear me talk a lot about if you come from a point of need and want, you will never get what you need or what you want.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
But if you come from a point of giving to others and sharing and helping other people, you'll get what you need and want tenfold.
So you have an innate spiritual base, whether you want to admit it or not. Because
well, it's not admit. Yeah, it's just I think it's not identifying it as spiritual. But
okay,
sure,
you know,
of course.
I mean, you can call it what you will.
Yeah.
The cosmos. You know, I call it divine intelligence, divine guidance, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter, but it's in there. It's there.
Yeah.
Because you just it's automatic with you, and you just have this knowingness. You know?
Knowing, I like that word. I do have a knowingness that I can't explain.
And you don't question it. So to me, that is divine. You know, and I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you know, I'm just putting the two together because I think as human beings we need to reflect outside of ourselves for a higher self.
Yes.
So you do agree with that?
Absolutely. I like the word, and I love the word knowingness because I also have awareness. You know, and I have a very strong awareness around that knowing. You know, which allows me to go into action about it. You know, I can't be passive about things. It's why I don't. It's why the idea of blind faith is something that I can't grasp and I can't deal with, because.
But you're living it. You're living it because you do things innately, and to me that's blind faith. When your mind is going, you know, like it does, to come up with 10 solutions for one situation. That to me is like a guidance that's coming from wherever, divine intelligence.
Well, that's like a trust for me. I trust in myself. I trust in my knowingness. I trust in what I know that it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, I also know that I'm going to have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C.
And that's the practical part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Of you. So that's a good thing. But it's curious, especially when, I mean, everybody, I guess, procrastinates some things. You know, I mean,
I procrastinate a lot. It's really interesting.
But it's amazing. I mean, that's such a dichotomy.
I know, and it's funny. And I'm one of these. Are you a list maker? I'm a list maker.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I write stuff down. I send myself iPhone notes. I've got more notes, and I send myself emails, probably 30 a day. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do that. What happens though is I inevitably, when I'm flying somewhere, because I live in 3 cities and I fly a lot, so as I'm flying, I get my to-do list clean and I'm all clear on what I'm going to do. I get off that plane, and I would say 3 in 10 times I look at the to-do list again until the next flight, and then I go back and I'm like, oh, there's that thing, and it's so repetitive in my life, it's laughable. And then when I look at the list, I just start crossing stuff off because I did it.
Okay, let me ask you this: what do you do to relax?
To
really get to that peaceful
I play
place?
Drums. And I love playing my drums.
How often do you play them?
Well, not enough, because I just am about to set them up again because I built a new room for them. But so I play drums. The women that might be listening are going to laugh because I can outshop any woman on this planet, and I absolutely take great solace in shopping.
Well, I'm sure you can outshop me because I don't like shopping.
Well, but I don't even have to buy anything. It's just I love looking as part of that whole feeding me creatively. I'll shop and shop and shop and shop and shop and look and look and look and absorb and take pictures and. You know, and I was dating somebody a number of years ago, and she said, "You'll take pictures of the damnedest things. You'll stop." And I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, "Where's Mark?" And we wandered down that alley to take a picture of something, because
it feeds ideas.
Oh, it's that curiosity. I have a terminal curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll go shopping, or I'll just go for a drive, or I'll put on some music and listen to my iPod and sing as I'm walking down the street, probably irritating everyone around me, no doubt. But
it doesn't matter.
But I don't care about all that. Yeah, but it satisfies me, you know. Somebody busted me at a street light recently because I had my windows down and I had my iPod on, and I have.
Police?
No. It was I had my headset on. Everything was legal, but I was singing at the top of my lungs, "Superstar" by the Carpenters. Now that's the most nerdy, old school song because I like every kind of music, but for whatever reason, that was one of my kids' songs, and I learned to play drums listening to Karen Carpenter and and the Chicago and the Doobie Brothers.
We're in the same era. You know?
Oh, I know. I just turned 55, and you know it's Well,
you don't look like it.
Oh well, it's good lighting.
No, Mark, you don't look like it.
I try not to act it either, but
Well, I wouldn't have thought you were 55.
Oh, yeah.
When I first met you, you were 53 or whatever. How old you were?
People guessed me to be in my early 40s, but you know what? I decided next year I'm going to say I'm 54, and I'm going to keep going backwards until somebody says no. I'm sorry. No, I'll just see if I can get away with.
That's a good idea. I might have to try that.
Well, I did have a date, and someone said to me, I told them how old I was, and they're like, "Oh, come on!" And they, kind of called me out on it, and they said, "Let me see your driver's license." So I pulled it out and I showed them, and I said, "Besides, who lies up?" I'm like, you lie up when you're 18 trying to get into a 21 club or something.
When he was in high school.
But that's when you lie up. Once you're over 21, you don't lie up anymore.
So tell me, what's the biggest impact difference that you really want to make before you make?
Well, I have a nonprofit that I'm working on called 24by24.org, and it's going slowly because I'm still working it in my head. I have to get it all in my head, and I'm about 80% worked out on it.
So what's this about?
Well, it kind of uses the power of social media and a concept, if everybody knows what network marketing is, tiered, pyramid marketing, whatever you want to call it. I'm taking the concept of network marketing and taking the scheme out of it.
Have you been practicing and waking up to loving yourself unconditionally? Men, this applies to you too. And I say this multiple times, but this is how important it is. And to get this on an unconscious level. So please write on your mirror, I love myself unconditionally, and leave it on there for at least 21 days. The last segment I was talking to you about how important the brain power and the mindful energy is, how precious your mindfulness and awareness is. And just a couple of weeks ago, I listened to a conversation, a special conversation between Deepak Chopra, MD, and Dr. Kafatos, physicist. Deepak Chopra, I believe you know, is a leading MD and a spiritual leader and author. He co-founded the Chopra Wellness Center in San Diego, California, and now he has a channel on YouTube called The Chopra Well. Dr. Kafatos has been the Vice Chancellor for Special Projects for Chapman University since 2008. He is an expert in science and physics. Deepak is a change agent and a leader, as he calls, the transition team between science and spirituality. Dr. Kafatos and Dr. Chopra were discussing, as they called, the riddle of consciousness. This is exactly what we need for proof and confirmation of how the brain works. They called this the involution instead of evolution. Involution means getting involved, and it can be complicated, but I think it's only complicated because it seems to be more challenging to understand how spirit and physics, metaphysics, integrate together. But then this is all part of our evolutionary understanding as humans. What was referenced is that our bodies completely change on a cellular chemistry level every 7 years. We as human beings can change our thinking, change our hardware, like we do with our computers. It feeds the mind, and there have been studies done on the mind in different cultures. And one that I use consistently is from India. The Indian people hardly ever develop Alzheimer's and dementia because they use turmeric daily. Don't forget to. Feed your spirit with love. So bye for now until the next time.